So welcome to the Solution2 C# Discord Community Conference. Today is the day 2, and then the first talk for myself is functional event sourcing using Sekiban. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tomohisa Takaoka. I'm from Japan, but living in the United States, California, nearby the Los Angeles. And then I work for the company called JTech Creations and JTech Japan, and then building the solution for the small and medium enterprise companies. Oh, just a second. Let me see. I can hear somewhere. Just a second. I hear oh, sorry about that. I hear myself. So I stop. Okay. And I got rewarded for the Microsoft MVP for developer technologies in just this month on November 2024. And I'm making the open source software called Sekiban, Event Sourcing and CQRS Framework, and ResultBox's Railway-Oriented Programming Library. So today I'm going to talk about the open source software I'm making for Sekiban and event sourcing. And agenda is this: what is event sourcing and what is functional event sourcing? And a product, Sekiban event sourcing and CQRS framework, and let's see the live coding if I hope that works well. And what is event sourcing? And in the Discord chat, let me know if you already use event sourcing or you think about event sourcing or you think that the bad practice. So that I will go along with that. And definition is like this. Event sourcing is the architecture design pattern where changes that occur in a domain are immutably stored as events in an append-only log. This provides the business with richer data as each change that occurred within that domain is stored as a sequence of events which can be replayed in the order they occurred. This means you're able to see more than just the current state of your domain. You can see what led up to the current state. So you can see from this left side, there's a graph, and then it says event sourcing system work like this. So add one coffee and coffee added. Add one orange and appending orange added. And add one tea added. But you change mine, and if you wanted to remove the orange, instead of removing the records, adding the one orange removed will be appending. So in that way, what's the benefit? You can see, if you see whole 4 records, we can see orange is already removed. And also, if someone said, the manager said, I want to recommend somebody who removed item because they might have interest on that. So we can see that from the data, and then we can add the feature later. So what is CQRS? Many people use CQRS more than event sourcing, but CQRS is command query responsibility segregation. And it's proposed by the Greg Young with the event sourcing. So if you use the event sourcing, usually you use the CQRS. But thinking about the command first and then focus on the command when can have the right model. And then when you make the query, you can focus on the read model. So that way you can have the separate of concern, and that makes the developer easier to focus on the one thing. So why event sourcing is good? Like we said in the last slide, audit and history by default, even though we didn't make the whole feature from the history. Later, you can make some adding feature from the history data. And separation of the concern, when you're making right model, focus on right model. And then when you're making query, you can focus on the read model. And because we have the two set of the data separately managed, we can focus on the scale on each writing side and reading side. And in general, the event sourcing is known to be easier to the scale. So that's why many people choose event sourcing. So how about common questions? I talk to many people about event sourcing and we get this kind of question. Can event sourcing and CQRS apply to the part of the system? Yes. We actually made it the first event sourcing system in the big system. There's things that the transaction causing error. So append only data of the event sourcing works better. So I just make that part on the system and everything else is regular state sourcing. The other question is event sourcing only applicable to complex microservices? No, it can be used in the small system or even in the monolithic architectures. And especially our companies focus on small and medium enterprises, so we can even use that without making complex. The event sourcing and secure system always require streaming databases like Kafka or PubSub streaming systems. No, we can make event sourcing and CQRS without the streaming databases, but if the system become distributed many microservices, that might be good to have the event-driven architecture. And how about the cost? The cost of infrastructure generally higher than traditional RDBMS systems. Not always. Recently, I talked to the cloud solution salesperson, and then we are talking about how we made uh, the event sourcing system to our clients. And they asked how much it cost. And then I said about how much it cost. And cloud solution salesperson said, is that for daily cost or monthly cost? Because he thought that might be that too cheap for the quality of the system. But I said, this is the monthly cost, and it includes development environment, staging environment, and the production environment. So if you use the events in the efficient way, you can make infrastructure costs very cheap. And the last question, event sourcing and CQRS difficult to learn? It was takes some time for us, and especially we didn't know nothing about the event sourcing until we started making this framework. So it took for me a little bit of time, but now we understand well, and we started training our intern or newcomers for the event sourcing programming. And once we teach the way that simply explain, they understand, and then they said they can make this easier and better. So now it's going to the functional part, functional event sourcing. How many people here likes functional programming? I just started recently for the functional programming, so I'm not functional master, but I like very much. The functional programming is a programming style that can be applied nearly any language. So it doesn't need to be Haskell, Scala, or F Sharp. Even the C Sharp, we can do the functional style programming. To do that, there's a point. There's 3 points that we can follow. The pure function without the side effect. So you need to input and something converting and return the data without doing anything, saving things in the function. And the immutability, instead of the changeable data, you can do, you create that data and you don't change that data until it's end of the life cycle. And then function composition, even you need to do the complex things, you mix the function. So whenever we are developing, we can focus on each function. And recent enhancement in the C# makes functional programming easier and easier. For example, you might be enjoying the records. If you put in a primary constructor, you can only from the constructor or with method. And pattern matching can make the more complex the change of the programming, so it can express more complex situation. So let's see the sample program that makes for procedural non-functional style and then functional style. For in the left, there's a procedural style with the user have the changeable property of the user ID and name. And change name method can take the change command and change the instance property. And also, as the side effect, you can write the log inside the function. So that's normal, the regular way of using object-oriented programming. And functional could be like this. User F is in the records, so you cannot be changing later. And command is change name F, have the user ID and string name. And handle command is like this. Input is command and current user. And it's converting and return the changed user. So user with name is command.name. So making the new instance and return the new data. So that's why we focus on the converting data. And if you want to do the side effect, something you want to log, you can get the action string logger. So you pass the data and then the printing stuff or side effect can be doing outside of the functions. So Greg Young said event sourcing is very naturally functional. So that's why it's an append-only log, and then it's a purely functional model intended to be functional, really, really well with functional code. You're going to start seeing more and more people doing functional programming on top of event source systems. So that's what when he said was about 8 years ago in 2016. Back then, there's not much the functional programming in event sourcing, but after that, there's a book released, Domain Modeling Made Functional, by the Scott Russians. So that books have a lot of impact. Even though they're written for the F# programming, the concept we can use in many languages. And the functional programming is really coming on the event sourcing recently. This is the DDD Europe, the 2023, so it's like last year. The Jeremy is talking about the decider pattern. Simple explanation, command and current state is input, and decide. This is a command handler part, and then it decide what kind of event they produce. And then after event produce, they mix with the state, and state evolve and then create a new state. So those simple two functions can form the event sourcing. And now there's many frameworks using the decider pattern, something like wobbling, and they have the functional style. So we implemented in our Sekiban as well. And in Sekiban also implement railway-oriented programming. Railway-oriented programming, instead of just return the value and then throw the exception, we return the either value or error, and then binding many functions together. So by doing this, if everything success, you can get the return value 4 in the last. But in the middle, if there is the error is happens, it just go into the other lane and the returning error. So we can see where it's finished and where it's caused the error, so we can handle error in the as a domain. And like the book, The Domain Modeling Made Functional, that by Scott Ration explain how developer can use functional programming to efficiently design domain. So now many people start doing in C# or TypeScript or Scala, and many people start doing event sourcing is a functional way of handling things. So how we do it? Sekiban event sourcing and CQRS framework. So basic of Sekiban is like this. We are open sourced Sekiban in December 2023. We developed about 2 years before, and then we already use in the client programming. And especially now, we are small companies, so we focus on the small and medium enterprises, but it has a potential that going to big, larger system as well. So everything what we are using, you can use under the Apache license as well. And it's written in the modern C#, supports .NET 8 and .NET 9. We just released the .NET 9 integration on last week. I wanted to make this happen before this event, so I was working hard last week. And it can be used in C# and F# as well. And then you can have the multiple infrastructure support, Cosmos DB, DynamoDB, Postgres. And the good things is we can do local development with Postgres and release the cloud to Cosmos DB or things like that can be done. And then we are developing WASM index DB that makes that we can run the Sekiban event sourcing system on the browser and save the data on the client side. So what that does is whenever the client cannot upload the data because of the internet difficulty, they store the data in the local index DB, and then whenever network is connected again, they send the event that already stored in the system. And also, we're talking about the functional style, and then Sekiban was started with the non-functional style, but now mainly do use the functional style interfaces. And then like this said, that we have few stars, about 55 or 56 stars. But if anybody who watches this, GitHub JTech Japan Sekiban, if you start with the open source, that makes us very happy. So how we write the code in the Sekiban? So this is a command and the command handler sample. And the command is this tenant at authentication identity, and then to the tenant adding the email. And to do that, first you need to specify the aggregate. So which data that you save the data to, and that's return the data from the input. So we can specify which data you want to change. And after that, in the command handler, is first this area is verifying the data is correct. For example, if the email is already added, you cannot add the twice for the same person, so return the exception. And otherwise, return the event, adding that email added. So you can do the business logic inside the command. But just command is focus is just what event it returns or it doesn't make the event. So that's how simple the functional it's going to be. And then for the event, it's just need to define how to change the aggregate. So tenant auth identity email added. So all the event has a past sentence because that's already confirmed that saving to the system. So this case on the event aggregate will be adding email to the admin list. So that's simple how simple event is. And testing can be easy as well. Given command and this create a tenant like this, and then another given command is making the identity for John Doe is example.com. So and after that, when command happen on the trying to add the same identity email John Doe example.com, then it should throws an exception. So like this, you can define how it need to be act. And then in this test, we don't use any database. We just use the in-memory database. So it runs super fast, like couple hundred tests in the 1 second. And if you want, we can generate the API just adding like this, adding Sekiban, adding the Postgres, and adding the web from domain dependency. So that is going to create the query, simple query, and also the command. So just doing that and then start having the APIs. And Sekiban is working very well with Aspire. So Aspire is now it's very popular in the .NET, and I think the Aspire is going to be the reason that you use the .NET and C# because it's super easy to create the environment, create a database, so you can start focusing on the programming. And Sekiban can do that as well. Postgres, Cosmos DB can be used, Aspire, and blob storage we can create it. And then we have now implemented Aspire 9.0.0. So that way, Aspire 9 can work with either .NET 9 or .NET 8. So developing the software in local can be very easy and also have the power to deploy in the system as well. So let's see the live coding. So let's see. So to do that, we need to make the project first. To the project, I'm using the Mac OS. And then for using Mac OS, it's easy to do with the .NET new command. In the Windows, you can use the new from the Visual Studio, and then you can do that. But let's make one project, .NET new. So that's Cream project that I made, and then open, and then project is made, and let's open with JetBrains Rider. And so that's simple project that made with the Rider, and for the Aspire. And then let me make the character bigger. And okay, so first you need to add the database. So let's use the Postgres bar, Postgres password equal builder add parameter and Postgres password. Oh, and then no, And then, oh no, secret is. And then to use Postgres, you need to add the hosting Aspire, hosting Postgres to the app host. And then var Postgres. And then you want to save the data, so with data volume, and also you want to show the admin with pg admin, and create a database with add database, and then Sekiban Postgres. And then you add this to the with reference Postgres database, and also with endpoint, and then for the HTTPS need to be annotation proxy is proxied equal false. Okay, so that's how we add the database. And let's make the domain. Let's make the domain for the new project and class library, and then Sekiban project domain. And then .NET 9, and then create. Okay, so first we need to define the domain dependency, but to do that, we need to add the Sekiban to the project, Sekiban core, and then adding to the domain. And it says project dependency, and then it's domain dependency. And then now you implemented missing functions, and then it's asking to assembly, executing assembly, and then define can be empty now. So now make the aggregate, so data table, public record. So let's make baseball team, and then baseball team, name, city, and league. And then I aggregate payload, and then baseball team. So this is how simple it is. You can just implement aggregate function, which is the creating new objects, and can be done with just a new baseball team and string empty and empty string. And then let's make the event. Event is the one that's saved as a data. So public record baseball team created. So it has same information, because in the first you need all the information to create the team. And then this is I aggregate. No, it's not aggregate. I event payload. And then for the aggregate baseball team, and then this is baseball team created. And then also this requires some method to fill. So on event, what you're gonna do, you just need to add aggregate payload with just takes the event data and then input into the aggregate. So now there's a events created. So now we can make the command create baseball team. And then I command with handler, and then baseball team, and then create baseball team, and then this. Just ask to implement it empty and specify aggregate ID. So this one, this is a new aggregate, so you can generate the random GUI ID. And then in the .NET 9, this is good, create version 7, so you can order with the GUID. And then this returns event or none event and new baseball team created and command name, command city, command league. So that's simple event, command, and aggregate. So let's make the API service as well. And then API service, you need to specify infrastructure, Sekiban, Postgres. So I'm going to use the Postgres as the infrastructure here. And also you want to create the web API. So Sekiban web, and then specify add the NuGet package. And now let's add it to here in the command. Oh, the one more, the .NET 9 doesn't have the Swagger UI. So instead of Swagger UI, let's use the Scalar ASP.NET Core. So this is just the UI for the developing time. Okay, so builder at Sekiban with dependency, and then project dependency. Because I forgot the reference, I need to reference here. Yeah. And then now referenced. Builder add Sekiban Postgres, and builder add Sekiban web from dependency. So it's create the API for the command we already created. And then for this app map scalar API reference. And also we use the controller inside the Sekiban. So app map controllers. Okay, so this is getting ready. So now let's run this program. Let's see. App host. Oh, app host caused error. So that's okay. Let me see. Oh, so HTTPS is better. So let me change to HTTPS and run again. And then it caused one more error that says parameters Postgres password is not defined. Yes, you need to define your own password in the app host. You can write in app setting, but I don't recommend because password is going to be seeing everyone. So I'm going to add in the user secrets. And the user secret, you can just make the password. And for the real project, you need to do the random characters. But for now, super secret password should be fine. I'm going to delete that after. So let's run this program again. Okay, so Now that program is running, and the endpoint is still in the root endpoint. So let's change a little bit with launch setting. In the launch setting in the API service property, I just need to add launch URL for scalar/b1. So like this, and then put it like this. So it's easier. You don't need to type in the program. So let's start doing that. Okay, so it's running well now. And then let's try the scalar. Yes, it works. So the weather forecast is generated first. So let's try this first. And it's working well. So let's do now you can see the baseball team is in there. And there's a query, simple aggregate list query. So let's try that. And they should be empty. Yes, this is empty because we haven't added any data. And to add the data, there's baseball team, create baseball team is here. You can test it with name of, I live in Los Angeles. So let's put Dodgers and LA and MLB and sending data, and it's created. And you can see the aggregate ID here, but you don't need to remember this. Here you can just run the query again, and here you go. Now you have a data. So let's add one more team here, and this. Okay. Angels and Anaheim. So let's do this. And then it's success. And then you go back to query. And then now you have two teams here. Angels, Anaheim, and Dodgers, LA. Or maybe changing the color might be easier to see. So let's see. Oh. Okay, let's see. And then now I have a mistake. Dodgers spelling is wrong. It should be DODGRS. So we need some feature that to rename the team. So let's make that renaming team in the program. So back to domain, and then let's add changing name feature. So to do that, we need the events, public, records, baseball, team, name, changed, string name, and then this is event payload with baseball team aggregate for baseball name changed. And then if name changed, you can implement this, and changes aggregate payload is just change name. So event sourcing, when you think about the command, each situation you have a different input, so you can save only that time that need to. So public records, and now change team name, and then this needs string name, but also need to specify which aggregate to be changed. So GUID, team ID, and then this should be command. I command with handler baseball team and change team name. And just implement it and then implement the function. And then first one is specify aggregate ID. Yes, now this time we don't generate the new aggregate, we just use the team ID. And then for this, now this one's also event with baseball team name changed with command.name. So now this is the changing name feature. And let's try to run this. Okay, so yeah, sometimes this happens. You just execute it and you don't get any information. So it happened when I practice. So it's finished. You need to finish this. You need to finish, hold all the JetBrains. I don't think it's a JetBrains problem, but and then activity monitor, and then that delete all the .NET instances, force quit, and then force quit. It happens, and then open this again. So I hope this works. Let's see. Yes, it came back again. So now get the data, and then let's see the Dodgers aggregate ID, and this, and then open up the change team name, and then executing with team ID, this one, and name is DODGERS. Let's run this, and it's success. And now let's see the query, and now the team name has changed. So that's how easy you create the event sourcing system. And because of the time, I cannot do any more. So let's go back to the slide. So in the summary, event sourcing can be gradually adapted in the part of the system. So you don't need to change everything. So functional programming is possible with C#, allowing you to focus on the individual function and reduce complex bugs. And the event sourcing is naturally functional by design, so it's easy to do that. And Sekiban leverages the power of the functional programming within event sourcing and CQRS. So it's not, might not be all the teams, but it's good to have event sourcing, and especially if you're a C# programmer using Azure or AWS, Sekiban would be good. You can use the data store as a Cosmos DB or DynamoDB. That might be really good. So add Sekiban or event sourcing in your toolbox. So now it's about the end of the program for this month. So let's see if there's any questions. So there's a question. I see the YouTube question, and let me see. Oh, I guess, yeah. I guess question is those three, so that from the YouTube. And so I need 2 classes for every property that can change. Oh, 2 classes. So yes, that you need a command and event. That's for the saving data and then making the order. So you need those 2 classes. But good things is it's like a vertical slice architecture. You don't need to convert DTO and layers. If you use directly use a command, it's very simple. And then number 2 question, what is the difference between decider pattern and handler pattern? I think it's just a name that command handler is named for decider because it's deciding what event to save. So I think in general, it's talking about the same concept. What are the next feature we can expect to come to Sekiban? What is the now we are developing the materialized view automatically generation, very simple setting, and then instead of the memory live projection, we want to deploy those data into the databases so you can use the read model using the Postgres or SQL Server, so that way we can expand for the larger system. So I think that's about the question, and then the time is good, 45 minutes. So I'm gonna end this session. If you can go Sekiban GitHub, please start it if you like that this session. And the next session will be starting in 15 minutes that Ken Dell is talking about making friends with reviews. And then after that, Steve Smith will talk about the clean architecture with ASP.NET Core. So the day two, still we have a couple more days to going on. And then thank you for listening to Solution2 Discord conference.